Shri Hare Namaha. We shall begin with today's session now. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Param Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Adi Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Mura Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Madhananda Tirtha Bhagavad Acharya Namaha, Shri Vedavyasaya Namaha, Shri Bharate Namaha, Shri Saraswate Namaha, Shri Vayave Namaha, Shri Brahmane Namaha, Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha, Shri Narayanaya Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha, Mokshapara Shri Vasudevaya Namaha, Krishnaya Vasudevaya, Hare Paramatmane Pranatkrishna Govindaya Namaha. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Grantamudhirayat. Narayanam Surugurum Jagadekanatham Bhaktapriyam Sakala Lokanamaskritam Chaturigunivarjitam Ajagubhadim Vande Bhavagnam Amarasura Siddhavandhyam Avikaraya Shuddhaya Nityaya Paramatmane Sadaika Rupa Rupaya Vishnave Sarvajishnave Namo Hiranya Garbhaya Hare Shankaraya Cha Vasudevaya Taraya Sarkastityantakarane Ekaneka Swarupaya Sthura Sukshmatmane Namaha Vyakta Vyakta Rupaya Vishnave Mukti Hetave Sargasthiti Vinashanam Jagatos Jivanvaya Moola Namastasmai Vishnave Paramatmane. So does anyone have any queries from the sessions conducted so far, and especially yesterday's session?
Harishnavas brother.
Harishnavar.
Yeah, so I had one question that I wanted to ask that Arjavam and Satya, aren't these two same only since Arjavam is sign of honesty and Satya also means to say truth and being honest?
Arjvam is literally it means straightforwardness, so it is slightly different. It's pretty much similar, but again, Arjava means showing straightforwardness in all actions that one does, and not being crooked in one's conduct. That is what Arjavam is about, and that is what is known as Arjavata. But again, honesty is speaking the truth and giving the right information and being honest. But again, here Arjavam means straightforwardness. That can be through all actions.
Okay, so Arjavam is a sign of honesty, right?
Yes, that can be considered that way.
Okay, brother, thank you.
Any other queries? Okay, so we shall move on with today's topic. So we shall discuss briefly about the tapatraya, or the three tapas which exist in samsara. So does anyone here have any idea about this?
Yes, brother. Teen tapas were the sufferings and pain which were Adi Devik, Adi Bhautik, and one
It's
second.
Adhyatmika, Adi Daivika, Adi Bhautika.
Yes.
So, though I think we had discussed this previously also, but nonetheless, this is a more detailed explanation of the same. So, the three tapas are the three categories of sufferings or pains which one experiences when they're in samsara. So, broadly, they're classified as Adhyatmika, Adi Daivika, Adi Bhautika. So, Adhyatmika means that which is in relation to oneself or Atma. So Adhyatmika is again of two more categories, and that is Manasika and Sharirika. So the Sharira tapas are that those which affect the body. So, for example, diseases and any illnesses or disabilities, such things can be considered as Sharira Adhyatmika tapas. But coming to Manasika, they are Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, Avamana, and all the negative factors which influence us and cause trouble to us. They are known as the Manasika tapas. The Adi Daivika tapas are those such as the natural disasters, fire, cold, wind, heat, all that, so that those which are caused by supernatural forces and which do not which are not directly caused by anyone intentionally, and the negative effects caused by them are what are said to be the Adi Daivika tapas. And moving on, Adi Bhautika are those tapas which are caused by other bhutas, that is, the different living entities. So, the other living entities, such as the animals, the Rakshasas, Asuras, and so many people, even the birds, plants, and insects, and all the reptiles, and whatever, and even other human beings are also included in this category. So here, because of other living beings, about the pains which we experience are said to be Adi Bhautika. So that is why it is called Adi Bhautika, that is in relation to other bhutas. Bhutas refers to the living entities. That's why even in the Bhagavad Gita, multiple times the word bhuta is used to refer to the jivatmas. So these are the three tapas, and at the most, the one which can actually be controlled by us are the adhyatmika manasika tapas. The rest are in very limited control. So the manasika tapas are those which we actually can control and can curb forcibly, especially as human beings with the intellectual capacity which we have. That is an important factor which differentiates us from the less evolved animals. Yes, any queries?
Yes, brother. That cold, wind, heat, rain, lightning, and all those phenomena, they also come under Adi Bhautik only, right?
No, that is Adi Daivika, because that is those are all supernatural and not caused by any living entities as such.
Okay, so all those natural calamities and disasters, they only come in Adi Devika.
Yes, they are all Adi Daivika.
Okay,
Any other queries?
no, brother.
Okay, so moving on. So these are the tapas, and that is why, since we are in samsara, we will always be experiencing these. And due to the constant influence of these tapas, it is one important reason why we should realize that it is not actually worth getting attached to material life and life in this universe and all the lokas here, because even till Brahmaloka also, some of these tapas will at least be causing some or the other trouble. And though they will become a minimum as we go to a higher loka, but still, as long as a person is in samsara, these tapas will be causing trouble to them. And finally, there are five things said in the Vishnu Purana, that is janma, then progression, diseases, that is roga, and jara, old age, and finally mrityu and naraka. So this will keep going on as a vicious cycle for those who are in samsara and who aren't progressing towards attaining a better destiny. So because of this, one should understand that our ultimate purpose is being in constant remembrance of Bhagavan. So that will enable us to tolerate these tapas, and will help us achieve equanimity, especially once we attain the state of aparoksha jnana. But even in the process of that, practicing bhakti is very important, because that is not something which will come just like that, or that will come without our efforts. So through efforts we can reach that stage of perfection as per our capacity. So that is why this is vital, and the Rajasika Jivas, or those who are of Rajasika Swabhava, will not understand all this, and that is why they will continue to remain in the cycle of samsara. That is, they will be moving around between different lokas, and their soul will be just trapped in samsara, because they do not actually put in any efforts from their side. There is no consistency in their efforts, if at all they're influenced by bhakti or spiritualism as such. So similarly, in the case of the tamasikas, they like causing destruction, and they not only do they remain without any purpose or without causing benefits to other beings, but they also are not idle in samsara. The tamasikas are those who usually involved in causing destruction to others, and causing more harm, because that is what gives them happiness. That is why they fall down to the status known as Andhantamas or Nityanaraka. So the main difference between the human beings and other animals is that we have the capacity to understand all this, and through the proper jnana which we can obtain, we can subsequently improve it and finally achieve aproksha jnana, and we can understand that we have a certain purpose in life and we should achieve that. This is one of the most distinguishing qualities between human beings and animals, because most of the other animals will not have any such intellectual capacity to understand all this, and nor will they bother much. And at the same time, because of their design in such a manner, they will inevitably commit more punya than papa. So the benefit which they cause in general to the whole world is slightly more than the destruction or resources which they may consume. So because of that, as said previously also, they subsequently end up attaining a higher birth. But again, for this reason itself, since even after achieving a human birth, if one is overcome by ajnana, it is actually hard to be consistent on the path of one's sadhana. And that is why proper association is also necessary. Association with the proper people, and not being swayed away or being in contact with anything which can make one deviate from spiritualism and bhakti in general. That is why when we discussed yesterday, even abstaining from engaging in the worldly matters or anything which is irrelevant, or as we would rather call it as vyartha charcha, this is also an important duty to be followed by all the sattvika people, if at all they want to please Bhagavan. That is why it is necessary to abstain from indulging in all unnecessary things which may be for entertainment or temporary sensual pleasures, but will not be beneficial to us in the long run. So that is why in the Vishnu Purana also it is said, Evam Pashu Samair Mudhair Ajnana Prabhavam Mahan Avapyate Narair Dukkam Shishnodara Parayanaihi. For the human beings who are in Ajnana, their Shishna and Udara, genitals and stomach, become their Parayana. That is their goal. They become exactly like foolish animals. Pashu Samair Mudhaihi, which means being exactly equivalent to fools and animals. So that is why there is one shloka in the Mahabharata also quoted by Sri Vedanta Deshika, where it is said that those who are addicted to such habits and who are addicted to dishonesty or speaking badly are those who are considered to be fallen down from all their dharmas. And that is why even the devatas maintain a distance from such people. So this is why it is necessary that one should make the best use of their human birth, and should know that we have so many other things to do, and we have a better sadhana which we can perform. So any questions still here?
No, brother.
Okay, so moving on again, as discussed previously, so the main methods of protocols which are necessary to achieve aparoksha jnana or to properly perform one's sadhana are practicing the yamas and the niyamas. The yamas are restrictions which are supposed to be practiced, or abstaining from the wrong actions. The niyamas are rules which basically are what we should do. So the yamas are prohibitory and the niyamas are prescriptory. So this was one question where many had actually made a mistake in the recent quiz. So again, that is why if one sees what the meaning of the words are in Sanskrita, and one also notices what exactly these are and the examples for the yamas and the niyamas, it will be more clear. So because of these are the basic protocols, and as we discussed in the Bhagavata Purana also, there is a more elaborate explanation of the different qualities which are also supposed to be practiced along with these. So in the beginning of all the sessions, someone had once asked a query that how is varnashrama important and how does it help for one to commit punya karma? So as explained by Guruji, the main basis is that practicing one's respective varna dharma is actually what helps to sustain society, because again all sorts of occupations and services are necessary in society, and in accordance to one's nature one should follow the varna dharma which is suited to their swabhava, or else if that is not possible to be done in most cases, especially when one is not an aparuksha jnani, or one has not achieved that level where one can tell or estimate what one's swabhava is. Due to that, in most cases, we just go with whatever our birth varna is, and since in ancient society, especially most of the occupations were also hereditary, which is why it was the Aupadika varna was usually the varna which one obtains from one's parents. So either way, one has to perform some contribution to the Jagat Chakra. So this is why without these, as said in the Bhagavad Gita also, those who do not contribute to the Jagat Chakra are said to be Agayuhu, means their entire lifespan, that is their Ayuhu, is a waste. That is why it's called a defective lifespan, which they have, Agayuhu. Aga literally means defect, or something, or some adulteration, or something which is a defect or negative quality. Any questions still here?
No, brother.
So moving on, so along with this, one also needs to realize that most of the ajnana is actually occurring due to two broad reasons, as said already in the around 1 month back. Also, I think I had mentioned this. So basically, one is considering anatma as atma, and second is focusing one's buddhi on those which aren't one's own positions as one's own positions. So this is why in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita also, these are the first few misconceptions which are cleared, because there it may, though it may seem that Arjuna was having such ajnana, it is actually not completely the case, because Arjuna was an aparoksha jnani. He is the avatar of Indradeva, but this was primarily meant for giving knowledge to human beings, especially what Bhagavan says in the Bhagavad Gita, to clarify most of these doubts which one may have. So even one's body is actually a temporary place, and this is easy to say, but many will actually not practically understand this easily without constant remembrance of this, that the self or atma is the jivatma, which is the soul. And that is why unnecessarily bothering too much about maintaining the body, which is not required, is again going to be a problematic thing, and it won't be beneficial in one's sadhana as such, because the body which we obtain is usually like a rented house. It's not something where we will reside permanently, or not our own. And again, as at the end of one's life, as and when one faces death, the body has to be abandoned and the person gets a new body. So that is why these are all very important things. But again, practically, if we see, in most of the cases, it is actually not something where people will actually consciously be aware of this. So most people will still have the tendency of valuing one's material possessions too much, because again, these are all natural misconceptions and causes of ignorance which arise because they are very much prevalent in the world in samsara. So this is why it's very common for all these to happen. But again, one with the proper jnana which we obtain from the shastras and from knowledgeable people and from aproksha jnanis, this has to be curbed, and subsequently one can progress in their sadhana. So moving on, today we should also discuss about certain offensive actions which should be strictly avoided for one to properly progress spiritually and to be considered a proper Bhagavad Bhakta. Okay, there is a question on YouTube. I heard that Jiva has different moksha. For example, if a Jiva has Rajasic nature, he will be in material world. Is this mentioned in books of Madhvacharya? Yes, it is mentioned. So we have discussed that in the previous sessions of this course elaborately. So there one can refer to that, and this has been discussed even in our translations of the Vishnu Purana and other books also which we have published. So there are elaborate explanations there, so one can refer to those. So yes, those who are Rajasika in Swabhava will not achieve moksha at all. They do not have a different type of moksha. They do not achieve moksha at all. And those who are Tamasika will also not achieve moksha, but they will achieve Nitya Naraka. That is eternal Naraka. So in the 29th Adhyaya of the Mahabharata Tatparya, Sri Madhvacharya discusses certain protocols and certain rules, and he summarizes all these things which we have discussed so far. So, the basic rules are that one should practice their Varna Dharma, and one should always respect other Vaishnavas, and one should practice the knowledge which they have. And for the Dvijas, they have to learn the Vedas, which is a primary compulsory duty for them, and in order to be considered as Dvijas in the first place. And for all others, other than the Vedas, all other Shastras can be learned, and through that, the same knowledge can be obtained by them. And the basic offenses are, that is, which are primarily the main causes of Ajnana. So those are thinking of any other entity other than Sri Vishnu as Parabrahman, or being equal to him or greater than him. So that is again a cause of Ajnana. Then thinking of the mistakes in the understanding of the Taratamya, or the gradations of the jivas and one's capacity or swabhava, and thinking that certain devatas may be equal to Bhagwan, or they are Bhagwan. As we see, many people on the internet are propagating such misconceptions nowadays, especially with thanks to the incorrect translations of the shastras like the Vedas, which are available now, which were written in during the British era. So this has also propagated such misconceptions, and because of this, so many misconceptions are becoming higher. And also thinking of the living entities as being God. Again, this is one thing which the philosophy of the Mayavadis or the Smartha philosophy propagates very much. But again, the Shastras have actually criticized this and have shown, especially if one reads the Kata Upanishad, the Mundaka Upanishad, and even the last pada of the Brahma Sutras, where it is clearly stated that even after achieving moksha, one still is subordinate to Paramatma, and one cannot actually become equal to him, or one does not lose their individual existence with only Paramatma being the only existing personality. Yes, any queries?
Yes, brother, but in Vishnu Purana it was said, right, that one who has knowledge of the manifestation, annihilation, and living entities, movement and cessation, as well as that the knowledge and ignorance is thus referred to as Bhagwan.
What is your
So
query?
aren't we? So aren't we calling rishis and all as Bhagwan since they have this knowledge?
See, again, as said in that shloka, they're said so in a secondary sense. Upacharataha, that word is important
Yeah.
there.
Okay, so in secondary sense we can call them as Bhagwan.
Yes, that is because they're simply referred to by the title Bhagwan. That doesn't mean that they are actually Parabrahman who is Sarva Karana Karana. Here here the important thing is that one should not think that they are literally the supreme God or the cause of existence of the whole universe and all entities.
Okay, Bharata. So we can call them the secondary sense as Bhagwan, but the supreme one is Hari only.
Yes, just as how even Ajamila's son had the name Narayana, but that doesn't mean the Vakyas of the Vedas which say Narayana Param Brahma refer to him, right? That's the same manner.
Yes, yes, Bharata, got it. Thank you.
So the causes of any actions are primarily through one's thoughts, that is with the mind, that is the manas, and it can also be with words or speech, that is vachas, and it can also be with the body, that is the kaya. That's why in the shloka, which is supposed to be chanted at the end of most of one's important rituals or at the end of the day, that is Kayana vacha manasendrirva buddhyatmanava anusta swabhavat karomi yadyat suklam parismai narayana samarpayami. So the fact is that these are the primary instruments of action which we have, and we must use these to always be in constant remembrance of Bhagwan, and we must ensure that we progress in our sadhana with these. But again, people's swabhava differ, so this is why the people who are of rajasika and tamasika swabhava will use their bodies to cause trouble to others or to not benefit anyone, and the rajasikas are that's why said to have both the gunas and doshas in an equal measure. So they have good qualities and defects in which are almost equal. They are that's why you could say that they are purely human beings, or purely those who belong to the material world and deserve to stay in samsara for that reason. So any queries so far?
No, Bharata.
The swabhava of the jivas have been discussed in in many sessions ago, not the previous session. So the it is not the 27th session, that is which was yesterday. It was discussed multiple sessions ago, around I think the 15th or between the 15th and 20th session, or before that also. So one can refer to the Vishnu Purana's translation which we have published. So there the same contents have been covered more elaborately. So one can refer to those if at all it's hard to find the exact session where we had discussed this, because this topic had been discussed in multiple sessions. So previously we had also discussed about the different purusharthas, and also how kama is important among them, how kama holds the greatest value among them. But actually, uh, there are certain merits of even artha and dharma as well. So artha is actually said to be of two types. So one is daiva and manusha. That is, one is divine and human. So artha is actually primarily referring to wealth. But again, the manusha artha is the money or the resources which we have here. But can anyone guess what daiva artha may be?
Daiva Artha. You said two types, right? Divine and human.
That is what daiva and manusha.
Yes. So
Is it Vaibhavam? Like we read about the Swarga having Nandanavana and Kama, Kalpavriksha, Kamadhen, all these uh, things.
That is the exact answer actually given by Srimad Acharya as quoted from the Mahabharata.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
That's not the exact answer.
Okay.
Okay, so the answer is it is knowledge. Even in the Dharma Shastras, it is said multiple times that there are certain factors which can be considered as a cause for respecting someone. So they are broadly one's age, one's relationship, which one may have with that person, and then it is also wealth, and finally it is knowledge, which holds the greatest value more than anything else. So because of that, one has to be respected the most if their knowledge is higher than everything else, and no matter if anyone else has the other qualities, but again, knowledge is what actually holds the greatest value. So this has been emphasized in the shastras multiple times, time and again. So again, that's why it is said that here knowledge is the greatest, and that is why based on knowledge one must actually give respect to any person. So the same thing is also repeated in multiple other dharma shastras such as the Vishnu Smriti and the Vasishta Smriti. So can anyone here tell whether if at all we suppose that there is one person who has a lot of knowledge, and there is another person who is superior to him in age and is also a senior family member of that person and also has a lot of wealth. So who should be respected more, the person with just knowledge or the person with the other three qualities?
with more knowledge, because he has knowledge about the supremacy of Hari, which is required to get moksha.
Okay, so any other answers?
So the second one, you said three things. No, what are the three? One is age, then experience, and what is the other one? The person.
One's relationship and wealth.
Okay, so he is more like a Vayovriddha and wealthy, and the first one
Yes.
is Jnanavriddha. So Jnanavriddha obviously is the better one.
Okay, so the actual answer is again here the person who may not have that much knowledge is still supposed to be slightly given more respect even by the person who has knowledge, because here the person is again a superior and directly a family member of that person, or and due to that person's age also there are those qualities actually outweigh this, and make sure that this person also has to respect that person. So if there are multiple such qualities which outweigh them, then again that person has to be respected. But once again, in certain cases this is not always true, because there are cases where if the person's knowledge is extreme, and if that person is a rishi or a devata or something, then in such a case, if at all that person is superior in terms of the taratamya especially, in such a case all these factors do not count. So in the Chandogya Upanishad, there is actually one such incident where Angirasa Rishi, when he was at the mere age of just 5 years, he actually attained Aparuksha Jnana and he became a Rishi as well. So in the process, his own elder brothers and his father were actually having trouble propitiating Sri Vishnu properly and having proper understanding of all the Vedas. So he actually corrected few mistakes which they had made, especially in some of their sadhanas, and he himself told them about how they should actually practice it, and they were all satisfied with him till he actually referred to them as putraha, which means sons. So he actually, at the mere age of 5 years, called his own father and his elder brothers as his putras, in the sense that he considered himself as their superior. So this actually angered them a lot. So at that time, they became quite angry, and but nonetheless, the devatas came and they said that whatever Angirasa Rishi said was justified. So these are certain cases where again one cannot follow exactly what is literally said by a few statements of the Shastras. So one has to understand them in accordance to the context. So any queries still here?
So still, brother, the person who has more knowledge, he should be respected more, right? Nonetheless
Yes,
of
but
the
it
age.
depends on the degree of knowledge again. So in the case of common human beings, that cannot always be done. So there are examples for both such cases.
But what's the use of being aged when the person didn't do anything in his life?
See, it doesn't mean that the person hasn't done anything. It primarily refers to Satvika people. Among them, this gradation is there. So obviously, with age, they would have had experience and knowledge also, though it is not to the extent which one may have if they've properly learned the knowledge that is required to be learned, especially from an Aparuksha Jnani.
Yes, but without knowledge, how would have the person contributed to the Jagat Chakra?
See, here it is understood that a certain basic knowledge will be there and that person will have sadachara. So aside from those basics, among the people who are practicing all these minimum qualifications, among them, these are the factors which determine how much respect they deserve and their what position they hold.
So that old person, he performs Sadachara entire life?
I didn't hear the last part.
The old person, he performs Sadachara his entire life?
Yes, if he does that, then again, and due to his age also, he would have a certain amount of experience and knowledge. So because of that, if at all there is a person who is almost equal to him and has much more knowledge also, still still the aged person has to be given respect even by the knowledgeable person. But again, it depends on the degree of knowledge. So if it is too high, it's like if as said already, if we compare normal human beings with people like the rishis or devatas or some superior beings, then again their whatever qualities they have will outweigh it naturally. But here again, that is not valid in all cases. So there are cases where this is not fully valid, and one should know where it is valid and where it isn't. Does that make it clear?
Yes, brother. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, Pragna, the point that you made, just an elaboration there. I felt uh, in the case of the person who is more experienced, I mean, we are taking him to be Satvika. So he has lived a Sattvic lifestyle. So he would have influenced many people along his journey of life, influencing people in a positive way and also bringing them into Sadachara. So that is his contribution to Jagat Chakra, as opposed to no Jnana Vriddha, who is still very young, who has gained a lot of knowledge, but he's still very young. He hasn't had that much life yet to influence others and things like that. So this also reminds us of that shloka from the Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagavan says that I need not do anything in this world, but I still follow the worldly things, just so that people in the world uh, or follow their duties properly.
Yes, that is very true. Definitely, that's the case.
Yes, Mataji, but the knowledgeable person can influence other people, more people through social media also, right?
No, we are not talking of we are talking of a very bare person with bare minimum possessions. We're not talking of things like laptop, these things, the jnana, the knowledge that is inside the person, the you know the knowledge that he has imbibed. We are talking of that. Okay, so you just
Okay.
imagine, just think of, even we have this in our day-to-day life. You think of we have these prodigies, no, in today's world. We see a lot of prodigies here and there in music, in many things. So the prodigy is like I mean, you can take it. I mean, not actually, but equate him to a jnani. So, for example, a prodigy in music, you take that prodigy and compare him with another person who has sung such good music throughout his life and uh, had a very good impact on everyone around. So definitely the one who has had a long life with a very positive impact throughout will be at a more higher position.
Yes, yes, Mataji, got it. Thank you.
Yeah,
So I
Bhata,
guess
you
this
mentioned,
should make it clear. Yes, any questions?
yeah, yeah. So you mentioned a person who has the knowledge of the Supreme, that is Narayan, and you mentioned another person who has wealth and who has family relation and plus age. The thing in this is that the knowledge of Supreme is permanent. That once a person gets a spiritual knowledge, Krishna says that he never loses it. So it's kind of permanent. Whereas the other person, the relation, wealth, and the one more thing, he will lose it once once he comes across death. So these are temporary qualities. So I think according to this, I think a person with knowledge of Supreme should be respected more and is more valued than the person who has some material acquisitions and qualities. Would it not?
Actually, this is not exactly the case because, again, though these are temporary, as long as one is in samsara, one has to follow the protocols to live properly here. That is why, if you see, what did Krishna do when Sudama came to visit him?
He kind of served him and worshipped him kind of.
And he even washed his feet also.
Yeah.
Even
Yes.
when Narada Muni and other rishis also visited Dwaraka, being the master of the whole universe, and despite that also, he washed their feet and behaved as if he was a normal king. So again, this is why, though all this is temporary, but again, as long as one has this body and one is living in the society and one is having a certain position and responsibilities, it is necessary to practice them. So among the Sri Vaishnavas, actually, there is one. This is one huge topic of discussion and disagreement between the Tenkalais and the Vadakalais. So the Vadakalais, they opine that as long as one is in samsara, certain duties such as varna dharma are all necessary, and that is also one way of actually performing sadhana and to achieve Bhagwan. So all these are again a part of karma yoga. But the Tenkalais, they opine that this is not the case, and they give arguments that uh, all these are unnecessary, but simply to respect the rules of the Shastras, we are doing it, or even if it is not done also, it won't be much of an issue. But if actually one sees the Shastras properly, even in the Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, Bhagavan says that the Shruti and the Smriti are his own orders. That's why it is necessary to follow them correctly. So again, as long as one has a physical body here, it is necessary to respect everything else which are there in relation to that. So it's the same reason, though once we attain aparoksha jnana, it is no longer necessary to stay in samsara, but we have to maintain the body the way we have it and use it to continue our practice of bhakti. And even if anyone may be a mahajnani also, still one keeps performing actions all the time, and one also still has to maintain their body, and that's why all these are necessary. That's why one has to eat food also, drink water, and so many things. That's why all these are a part of that, and again they become necessary. So does that make it clear?
Yeah, I think we all agree that we have to give respect to everybody. But I think the question here is who is more valuable and more respectful. So from that point of view, if we have to say one of them, let's say some a circumstance comes that we have to say one of them, the obvious answer or the more appropriate person to be saved would be the person who has a knowledge of the Supreme. Because we know that without the knowledge of the Supreme, we cannot progress as a human race.
So that is there to some extent, but again we are talking about people who have a similar status or who are almost equal in position. So when they are almost equal in position, or when they have an equal status, at that time these qualities play a different role. So again, though knowledge is said to be the greatest among them, if there are multiple other qualities such as the ones which are considered as subordinate to knowledge, it is still granting that person more respect, and that is why that person has to be respected more. It's not about who is more valuable in society as such, but it is about who should be shown more respect. So no matter what, even if one is an aparoksha jnani also, they cannot behave as if they're superior to their parents or to their other superiors or anyone else, right? Even for that matter, Sri Krishna also and all the devatas, whenever they were born as human beings, they never showed any superiority to their gurus, and they formally learned all the shastras and all types of knowledge from a guru properly. They did not simply behave and show that they are aparoksha jnanis and superior to them, though their gurus and all they were not great jnanis or great beings to the extent these people were.
That means so aged person is more respectable, but the knowledge person is superior.
Yes, in the sense that that person can be more has more value, and is like that person has a greater contribution in helping others and propagating jnana. And again, that person, if he has achieved aparoksha jnana, then that person again is more is causing more benefits. But again, nonetheless, when it comes to people with a similar status, and here we are not just talking about aparoksha jnana, we are talking about any form of knowledge which can benefit people, or even the knowledge of different sciences which have been there since ancient times. So again, in such cases also, though one may have knowledge and one may have so many qualities, one cannot become superior to those who may be both related to them somehow, or and be their superiors, and also might be senior in age. So again, those also count. That's the point of the shlokas which have been mentioned in the Dharma Shastras.
The aged person is more respectable and superior also.
Yes, in a sense. Yes, because of their age also, they would have they would have been in a better position, and they would have already gone through certain stages of life also. So they will again have that experience as well. Does that make it clear?
I just want to ask you one question, Bata, that in Varnashram system, who is more respected, a Brahmana or a king?
Obviously, a Brahmana is only respected. One who is a
Yeah.
Brahmana by Swabhava.
So I think he's respected because he's spreading the knowledge of Brahman, right? Although the
Not
king
just
might be.
because of knowledge, but because of their contribution to society. Because yes, they provide knowledge, which is the again the Daiva Artha, that is the divine wealth. So again, yes, and also they are supposed to lead a strict lifestyle of having no income, and they should be fully following all sorts of protocols. Not even once if they consume alcohol, also it's considered as an unforgivable papa karma for them. So as said by Guruji also previously, the Dharma Shastras literally even mention that they're supposed to die if they do it. Only then they can be actually freed from that papa karma.
Yeah, so that means
Yes,
that.
brother, but
Yeah, go ahead. Please.
yes, brother, but it was written in Vishnu Purana that Grihastha, how all other Varnashram takes refuge under Grihastha. So king is a Grihastha, right?
Even Brahmanas may be Grihasthas also.
Okay.
So, Bata, I think what you're actually saying here is that a Brahmana, Brahmana who has a knowledge of the Supreme and who is practicing all the rules and regulations is more respected than, let's say, a aged king who is doing charity and good work across the country, right?
See, again, it depends. If that Brahmana is a proper Aproksha Jnani and has reached the full potential of, as per his Swabhava, and has the Swabhava of a Brahmana, then he is respectable. But again, if at all those people are actually somewhat equal in status, then again, the same Manusmriti also says in that same section which I mentioned that even a Shudra who is highly aged is equal to the Trivarnikas. So there he must be respected as if he is one of the Trivarnikas. So similarly here also it's the same case. But again, knowledge is considered as the most valuable. But again, it's like how we say 15 is greater than 10 and 10 is greater than 5. But again, 5 plus 10 plus 3 becomes 18, which is greater than 15. I think this should give a better idea of what the Shastras are intending to say.
Okay, Bata.
One question, is there a statement in Bhagavatam? It says women should not read Vedas, but when we see the example of one Upanishad, it says pregnant women were listening to Upanishads and other examples. So firstly, there is no such statement that women or anyone should not read the Vedas, because reading the Vedas has no restrictions, because even reading the Samskrita text of the Vedas is not considered as Veda Adhyayana or properly learning that. And secondly, it is usually in most cases the common human women are considered as Advijas or those who are ineligible for the samskara of Upanayana, which makes one eligible to learn the Vedas under a guru. So that was usually done by the Traivaranikas. And one thing is that the Madhva Sampradaya is the only Sampradaya which accepts the idea that even women were eligible to become Dvijas. So this is a topic we'll discuss probably next week about the adhikara of different people and what shastras can be learnt and about this in general. So the fact is that Madhvas very much recognize this, that certain categories of women have the adhikara to learn the Vedas and they can be Dvijas as well. Now, who they are and whether human women can come under this category or not is a disputed matter among different Madhvas, and it also requires an elaborate explanation. So the concerned shloka which you have quoted here is the first skanda of the Bhagavata Purana, Adhyaya 4, shloka 25, which actually says, Stri Shudra Brahma Bandhunam Trayina Shruti Gochara Kripaya Munina Kritam iti Bharatam Akyanam. So this is actually intending to say that because of these categories of people who do not have eligibility to learn the knowledge of the Vedas or practice it directly, the same knowledge was given through the Mahabharata, and that is why the Mahabharata was made by the compassionate Muni, that is Vyasadeva. So here it intends to say that the Mahabharata and other Shastras were authored for the purpose of granting aparoksha jnana to those people who are Advijas and cannot learn the Vedas. So I hope that clears the query. Any further queries? Anyone?
One question I had.
Just one question.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
You please go ahead.
I had a question related to the different meditation techniques that exist. So one technique or one sadhana which you mentioned was related to Nam Japa. I also wanted to ask whether other techniques, meditation techniques like breathing, breath meditation, pranayam, or yogic techniques, do they also lead you to the to Narayan?
So pranayama is actually of two types, as said in the Vishnu Purana also. So one is sabija and another is abija. So sabija means with the root. So sabija is when it is not mere breathing practice, but it is also involves contemplation of Sri Vishnu. So that is when it is actually going to be beneficial and can be considered as a part of sadhana. Abhija is it is mere breathing practice, and such a practice will be beneficial for the lungs and the body, but it will not be beneficial in sadhana.
So meditation techniques which help one to quiet the mind, do they lead to Narayan?
Again, the proper meditation is dhyana. That is explained in the sixth amsha of the Vishnu Purana in Adhyaya 7, elaborately about how one should visualize the form of Bhagwan and how one should contemplate upon him, especially during practices like japa. So that is what is the proper dhyana. So other than that, the meditation practices propagated by different philosophies, especially some which come in the yoga darshana also, they are not going to lead to aparoksha jnana, because they are anyway not the satagamas. So everything they say cannot be blindly trusted. They have to be interpreted in accordance with the sadagamas. Does that make it clear?
So the samadhi state which they mention about, that is not the same as mukti here, right?
No, moksha is achieved after one faces death and finishes their janma in samsara, in the material world, and finally reaching Bhagwan's abode is moksha. But getting into samadhi is that is actually being in contemplation of Bhagwan or union with him. So again, properly to get into the state of samadhi, one again that doesn't mean that if at all one reaches a state similar to samadhi, it is indicative that the person has aparoksha jnana. So again, to properly attain samadhi, one has to have aparoksha jnana, and through that one will obtain the sight of Paramatma as their antaryami. So that is what indicates that they've reached the level of paripakva bhakti. Does that make it clear?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, brother.
Any other query?
Yes, Pragna, the Vishnu Purana that you are translated and it's available. Is do all the stories belong to this kalpa, Shvetavaraha kalpa that we are currently in?
Some of them belong to this kalpa only, as far as I remember. And some of them are slightly different. They are from a different kalpa. If I remember it correctly, it's like that. Because again, one can compare that with the itihasas like the Mahabharata, and one can check whether it belongs to the present kalpa or manvantara or not. So that is one way of finding out that. And usually in the beginning of the Purana, it will be mentioned which kalpa it belongs to. So many parts of it are from the Shvetavaraha kalpa only. So in the present Vishnu Purana, what all is narrated, most of it is from this kalpa. Some of them may have kalpa beda or manvantara beda.
Okay. Because I find I was reading the story about Dhruva, and what is available in the Bhagavatam is a little different from what is there in the Vishnu Purana. In the sense, in the what the story in the Vishnu Puranam says that the Saptarishis came and blessed Dhruva with the Bija mantra. Whereas in the Bhagavatam, it is we read that it was Narada Maharshi who came and who blessed him, who guided him. So that difference is there. So I was wondering whether this belongs to a different kalpa or manvantara or whatever.
One interpretation that along with Narada Muni, the Saptarshis also blessed him. So that is also a possible interpretation, because in certain cases it's like that. One Purana will provide some information, another few Puranas or some other Shastra might provide the rest of it. So it's not always difference in the time period when the events happen, but that is also another possible explanation. So I haven't really confirmed the exact explanations of acharyas. So maybe this could be either due to difference in the time period, or due to it could be simply providing partial information which has to be understood in the light of other Puranas.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any more queries? Okay, so if there are no more queries, we shall wind up for today, and the next session shall be next week, where we shall also discuss some other next subsequent topics, such as adhikara over the shastras, and a few other important practices to be followed regularly for sadachara. So that's all for now. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Dhanyavada. Achyutaya namaha, Anantaya namaha, Govindaya namaha, Achyutanandamaya namo namaha.
Hare
Thank
Rama.
you, brother. Hari Ram.
Hare Ram.